Hi. This is the video to show you how to do chapter 10 calculator stuff, which is basically required for everything in the chapter. So you really need to watch this video, right? So let's get started here. So first, they're asking us, right? Okay, we got these years, right? The pizza price that year and the subway fare down in New York City, right? So like, are they correlated? What's the deal here, right? So the first thing you want to do is you want to get a visual idea if they're correlated. So you want to enter in the items to the list. And when you do this, you want to make sure, right, the whole point here is that like this piece of data right here and this one, they're paired. So in this case, the order does matter, right? Because you have to have everything paired, right? So the fact that this 15 first is associated with 1960, this 15 also has to be first in L2. All right, so you can put it in there. Right, so you just enter in these lists and just, again, remember we get here by doing stat and then edit. So just entering in the data. Obviously, there has to be, for this to work, there has to be the same number of items in both lists. Just think about it. This is probably not the most thrilling part of the video. All right, so now we've entered them in the list. So we want to then go to make, so then we want to see a scatter plot to see if the data appears to be linear. So notice above L1, it says the phrase stat plot. So that's what we want to do. We want to go to second, hit Y equals for stat plot. So then we're going to hit enter. We're going to change this to on. And then you can see that the stat plot there is already selected. My X values are in L1 and L2, right? If they weren't, you can just hit, if they're in different lists, you can just hit the correct one. So if they're in L4, I could just do second L4, but they're actually in L1. So second, L1 and L2 are mostly what you're going to have. Now that that's on, I can just hit graph, and we can see the data right there. But it's not the best, and sometimes you wouldn't see the data at all. So what we want to do is we want to set the window. So when you're setting your window, you kind of want to look at, okay, what's the smallest X gets, what's the biggest it gets, and then kind of create a window that way so you can see all of the data. So I want here my window for X to start at 0, so it should be smaller than everything, and then get up to 3. Same thing down here. Smallest is 0. Biggest is 3. Right, now usually they won't be the same, but in this particular case it is. So that means I want my X min to be 0, my X max to be 3, and in this case same thing with the Y. You could easily imagine a situation where it wouldn't be. Now SCL stands for scale, so what it will do is it will put a hash mark every one. So that's not a lot of hash marks. That won't really help us see our data, but it's not the most important thing. So maybe I'll put 0.3, and then that means there would be 10 hash marks. You'll see what I mean in a little bit. So I'll do that again for Y scale. XRes, I've used these calculators for decades at this point, and I still don't know what that does. Just leave it alone. Then you hit graph. Okay, now you can see your graph, your stuff anyways, right? But now you can see your graph and it appears to be linear, so that's great. Now, now that we know that, let's do a more in-depth analysis. So to do that, I can go to second tests. But before we do that, right, you know, to see your R value, you have to turn your diagnostics on. And you just do this once. If you reset your calculator, you have to do it again. But let me just show you how to do that. So to turn your it's really weird. For some reason, the calculator requires you to do this. You need to hit second. Then down here it says catalog. And then you either need to scroll all the way along, or you could hit D. Then you want to scroll down to diagnostics on and then just hit enter. For whatever reason, certain information is not given to you, right, on your calculator if you don't turn these diagnostics on. So now we're going to do second. Oh, sorry, not second. Just going to do stat. You go to tests. You can scroll all the way down. Easier to scroll up, and you'll see something called linreg t-test. You're going to hit enter. Just make sure you have your L's. Never change anything here other than maybe L1 and L2 if you're not using that. Then you're going to go down to calculate. And then we have some information here. So first off, notice the p-value here. Here it says that p is equal to which is basically 0, right? So I didn't tell you what significance level to use, but no matter what significance level we were going to use, you were going to find out that your p, right, is less than alpha. Right, because alpha would have either been 0.1, 0.5, etc., right? No matter what it was, this is so small, right? So which means we can conclude there's a linear relation. Now, if you scroll down, we get R, is 0.99, which means a very strong linear relationship. So before we know that there is a linear relationship, this tells you R tells you the strength, and of course if R is negative, it's a negative linear relationship, sloping down left to right. This one is positive, so that means it is slope going up, sloping, going from left to right. So that's what R is. Then the final values, you can see it shows you the linear equation is y equals a plus bx. So that means we're missing that this is the equation, the line that gives us our equation. So that's A, that's the y-intercept, plus, so that's the equation, right? Where x is the pizza cost and y is the subway fare. Okay. So we can also now graph that on the same plot by hitting y equals and then just writing out the equation. Now, if you graph, boom, there everything is. You can definitely see that the line really fits the data quite well. Finally, the question here asks if the subway fare, what's the predicted subway fare if the pizza slice is $3? Well, that is in our equation x. So I can simply say, well, then I have y equals, replace x with 3. Boom. It gives us then that the predicted price of a slice of the subway in that case is roughly, oh, you can round up to the nearest cent, $3.02. Okay, so that's what's going on there. You'll definitely need this for your celebration, so make sure you understand how to do all this stuff on the calculator. Okay, goodbye.